Robert Hansen, known as the Butcher Baker, was one of America's most notorious serial killers. Operating in Anchorage, Alaska, during the 1970s and early 1980s, he targeted vulnerable women, often sex workers or runaways, whom he kidnapped, assaulted, and eventually hunted in the Alaskan wilderness. A skilled hunter, Hansen used his experience to stalk and kill his victims after releasing them in remote areas, treating the ordeal like a twisted game. Despite his seemingly unremarkable life as a family man and bakery owner, Hansen's crimes went undetected for years. It wasn't until 1983, when one of his intended victims escaped and provided crucial details to authorities, that investigators were able to connect him to the disappearances of multiple women. A subsequent search of his property uncovered weapons, trophies from his victims, and an aviation map marked with locations where bodies were later found. Hansen ultimately confessed to murdering at least 17 women, though the actual number may be higher. He was sentenced to 461 years in prison, where he remained until his death in 2014. His chilling story has since inspired books, documentaries, and even the 2013 film The Frozen Ground. That's a great historical figure. Miriam Kate Williams, known as Vulcana, was a pioneering Welsh strongwoman who defied Victorian-era gender norms with her incredible feats of strength. She performed in music halls across Britain and France, often alongside her partner, Atlas, William Hedley Roberts. Vulcana was known not only for her strength but also for promoting physical fitness for women, an unusual stance at the time. Her legacy remains an inspiration, proving that strength and grace are not mutually exclusive. Stalin, Hitler, and Mussolini as boys. A rare and striking comparison of three of the most infamous leaders of the 20th century, Joseph Stalin, Adolf Hitler, and Benito Mussolini, captured in their youth. Each of them, roughly the same age in these photographs, would go on to shape history through war, ideology, and dictatorship. These childhood images provide a haunting contrast to the figures they would later become. When Jimmy Carter became president in 1977, his wife, First Lady Rosalind Carter, made a bold and controversial decision that shocked the nation. She hired Mary Prince, a black woman who had been convicted of murder, to work as a nanny for their daughter, Amy Carter, in the White House. This act sparked widespread debate, raising questions about justice, rehabilitation, and the role of second chances in American society. Founder of the Black Panther Party, Huey P. Newton, was photographed in 1967 holding a gun and a spear, a striking image that symbolized his revolutionary stance. Born on this day in 1942, Newton played a crucial role in the fight for black empowerment and self-defense against systemic oppression. His life was marked by activism, struggle, and controversy, and he was tragically murdered at the age of 47. This is Christopher Chaplin, the youngest son of the legendary Charlie Chaplin. Born in 1962, Christopher is now 62 years old. His father, Charlie, was 73 at the time of his birth. Carrying the legacy of one of cinema's greatest icons, Christopher has made his own mark as a composer and actor. Hollywood legend Kirk Douglas signs autographs for fans at the Lido Beach in Venice during the Venice Film Festival in 1953. Known for his charismatic presence on and off the screen, Douglas was one of the biggest stars of the era, captivating audiences worldwide with his performances. A serious-looking Princess Dagmar of Denmark, the future Empress Maria Fyodorovna of Russia, poses for a formal portrait, only to be hilariously upstaged by her older brother, Prince William of Denmark, the future King George I of Greece, peeking out from behind the curtains. This candid and playful moment offers a rare glimpse into the lighter side of royal life in the 19th century. Marilyn Monroe poses with William Travilla, the costume designer behind many of her most legendary looks. Travilla created the iconic white dress she famously wore over the subway grate in The 7-Year Itch, and the glamorous pink gown from Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend. Reflecting on his work with Monroe, Travilla once said, "My clothes for Marilyn were an act of love." Captured in a Pulitzer Prize-winning photograph, this harrowing moment shows white teenager Joseph Rakes attacking civil rights activist and lawyer Ted Landsmark with an American flag. The assault took place during a protest against the desegregation of Boston's public schools. The image became a stark symbol of racial tensions in the United States during the 1970s. In this moment of classic LBJ intensity, then vice presidential candidate Lyndon B. Johnson is seen yelling at the pilots to cut the engine noise so that John F. Kennedy can deliver his speech. Meanwhile, Kennedy, ever composed, tries to keep his cool. This scene captures the contrasting personalities of the two men who would soon lead the United States, Kennedy with his calm demeanor and Johnson with his commanding presence. This haunting image captures the final moments of Tom Fox, a 33-year-old man who succumbed to AIDS in 1989. Taken just minutes before his passing, the photograph serves as a stark reminder of the devastating toll of the AIDS epidemic during the late 20th century. His story, like that of so many others, underscores the urgent need for awareness, compassion, and medical advancements in the fight against the disease. Joseph Mengele, a Nazi physician at Auschwitz, is remembered as one of history's most evil figures. Conducting inhumane experiments on prisoners, particularly twins, he became infamous for his cruelty. After World War II, he evaded capture and lived in South America until his death in 1979. His legacy remains a chilling reminder of the atrocities committed during the Holocaust. In 1949, the Naur family gathered around their brand new television set, experiencing the magic of broadcast entertainment for the first time. The glow of the screen illuminated their faces, marking a shift in how families spent their evenings. This moment captured the excitement of a rapidly changing era, where television became a centerpiece of home life, bringing news, entertainment, and culture into living rooms across the world. Ella Williams, known professionally as Madame Obama, was a woman of extraordinary height and strength who became an international sensation in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Born in South Carolina to formerly enslaved parents, Williams grew to an astonishing height, reportedly over 8 feet, after a bout with malaria at the age of 14. Her remarkable stature and regal presence made her a star attraction in traveling circuses and sideshows across the United States, Europe, and Australia. Often dressed in elaborate gowns and towering feathered hats, she was marketed as the Amazon Giantess, or the tallest woman in the world. Despite the exploitative nature of such performances at the time, Williams turned her height into a successful career, commanding international fame and earning a considerable income. Beyond the spectacle, Madame Aboma's legacy remains a testament to resilience and self-determination. In an era when black women had limited opportunities, she carved out a space for herself in the entertainment industry, leaving behind a story of strength, perseverance, and undeniable presence. Floyd Collins, an experienced cave explorer, met a grim fate in 1925 when he became trapped in Sand Cave, Kentucky. While searching for a new entrance to the popular Mammoth Cave system, a loose rock shifted, pinning his ankle and leaving him buried up to his waist in debris. With no way to free himself, he was forced to endure days of darkness, cold, and starvation as frantic rescue efforts unfolded above ground. Despite national media coverage and countless volunteers working tirelessly to save him, Collins perished before help could reach him. His death became one of the most infamous caving tragedies in history. In a bizarre turn of events, his body was later put on display in a glass-topped coffin inside the cave, attracting tourists for years. Even more shockingly, his remains were stolen in 1929 before eventually being recovered and laid to rest in a proper grave. Collins' story remains a haunting reminder of the dangers of cave exploration and the desperation of a man who came so close to survival, only to be lost to time and stone. In a quiet street in the Netherlands, a young Dutch mother is seen tending to her baby, nestled comfortably in a classic wooden pram. The year is 1929, a time when simple yet elegant craftsmanship defined everyday life. Wooden prams, with their sturdy frames and large wheels, were a common sight, offering both practicality and charm as mothers strolled through town. The image captures a tender moment between mother and child, reflecting the timeless nature of early parenthood. Though the world was on the brink of great change with the looming economic hardships of the Great Depression, scenes like this remained a symbol of warmth, resilience, and the enduring bond between mother and baby. In the 1920s, thousands of women across the world worked tirelessly as telephone operators, repeating the phrase, "Number, please," hundreds of times during an exhausting 8-hour shift. These switchboard operators were the backbone of communication, manually connecting calls in a time before automated dialing. With precision and speed, they juggled incoming and outgoing calls, navigating a maze of wires and plugs to ensure voices reached their intended destinations. Despite the monotony and the pressure to work quickly, being a telephone operator was considered a respectable job for women, offering independence and financial stability at a time when career opportunities were limited. Though their voices were rarely remembered, these women played a crucial role in shaping the modern telecommunications industry, paving the way for the technology we take for granted today. Captured around 1897 by photographer Benedict Rensted, this striking portrait features Tindor, a Lemhi Shoshone chief, and his wife, standing as a testament to the resilience and dignity of their people. The Lemhi Shoshone, a subgroup of the Shoshone tribe, inhabited areas of present-day Idaho and Montana, navigating the challenges of encroaching settlers and shifting U.S. policies that threatened their way of life. Rensted, known for her evocative portraits of Native Americans, preserved not just images but also the cultural presence of the Lemhi Shoshone at a time when their traditions and lands were under increasing pressure. Through this photograph, we glimpse into the strength, pride, and enduring spirit of a people determined to hold on to their heritage amidst a rapidly changing world. In October 1919, long before televisions and live broadcasts, baseball fans in Pittsburgh crowded around the city-county building, eagerly awaiting updates on Game 3 of the World Series between the Chicago White Sox and the Cincinnati Reds. A massive scoreboard displayed real-time play-by-play reporting, while announcers relayed game details to the anxious crowd. The 1919 World Series would later become infamous as the backdrop for the Black Sox scandal, in which several Chicago players were accused of conspiring to throw the series in exchange for money from gamblers. However, at the time, fans in Pittsburgh, like millions across the country, were simply caught up in the excitement of America's favorite pastime, hanging on to every update in an era when the game was followed through newspapers, radio reports, and public scoreboards. Captured by renowned photographer Bill Brandt in 1933, this striking image showcases a parlour-maid and an under-parlour-maid standing poised and ready to serve dinner in a grand London household. Their crisp uniforms, formal posture, and composed expressions reflect the rigid social hierarchy and discipline that defined domestic service in early 20th century Britain. During this era, wealthy households relied on a team of well-trained servants to maintain their high standards of living, with parlour-maids responsible for serving meals, attending to guests, and ensuring the dining experience was executed flawlessly. Brandt's photograph, like much of his work, offers a glimpse into the contrasts of British society, highlighting both the elegance and the strict formality of domestic service in the 1930s. In this poignant moment, a Soviet mother embraces her son, giving him one last kiss before he departs to join the ranks of the Soviet partisans. The deep sorrow and resilience captured in this image reflect the immense sacrifices families made during World War II, as countless young men and women left their homes, uncertain if they would ever return. Soviet partisans played a crucial role in the resistance against Nazi forces, engaging in guerrilla warfare, sabotage, and intelligence gathering to disrupt the German occupation. Their bravery came at a great cost, as many never saw their families again. This farewell is not just a personal goodbye, it is a testament to the collective struggle and determination of a nation at war. The Mingun bell, located in Myanmar, was once the largest functioning bell in the world. Weighing an astonishing 90,718 kilograms, over 90 tons, of bronze, its casting began in 1808 under the orders of King Bhattapaya and was completed in 1810. Designed to accompany the massive, unfinished Mingun pagoda, the bell was meant to symbolize the king's grandeur. Unlike many large bells, the Mingun bell has no internal clapper, and it is struck from the outside. Despite its immense size, it has withstood centuries, remaining an engineering marvel and a historical treasure. This rare 1873 photograph captures the bell in its earlier years, standing as a testament to Myanmar's rich cultural and architectural legacy. In the 1920s, Los Angeles was home to one of the most bizarre and daring attractions of the era, the California Alligator Farm. Unlike modern-day zoos with strict safety measures, this farm had no barriers between visitors and its reptilian residents. Guests could walk freely among the hundreds of alligators, often feeding them by hand or even riding on their backs for a photograph. At lunchtime, the farm would put on thrilling feeding demonstrations, drawing crowds eager to watch the massive reptiles lunge for food. Despite the apparent danger, the attraction remained a popular destination for decades, offering visitors an up-close encounter with one of nature's most fearsome predators. In the 1920s, Shanghai was a bustling metropolis, a melting pot of Eastern tradition and Western influence. Its streets were alive with the sights and sounds of a rapidly modernizing city, rickshaws weaving through crowds, street vendors calling out their wares, and grand colonial-era buildings standing beside traditional Chinese architecture. This was the era when Shanghai became known as the Paris of the East, with its vibrant nightlife, foreign concessions, and booming economy. Yet, amidst the glamour, the city's streets also reflected deep contrasts. Wealthy elites in Western-style suits walked past laborers in traditional robes, a visual testament to the social and economic divides of the time. On May 19, 1963, Lise Meitner, one of the most brilliant physicists of the 20th century, met with Siegfried Eklund, the director of the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, in Vienna. Meitner, often referred to as the mother of nuclear fission, played a pivotal role in the discovery of nuclear fission alongside Otto Hahn. In 1939, she published the Theoretical Explanation of Nuclear Fission, a breakthrough that led to both the development of nuclear power and, later, nuclear weapons. Despite her immense contributions, she was never awarded a Nobel Prize, though she was nominated 49 times. Instead, Otto Hahn alone received the 1944 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for their joint work, a decision widely regarded as one of the greatest injustices in scientific history. Meitner's legacy, however, remains monumental. In 1997, her contributions were finally immortalized when element meitnerium, MT, atomic number 109, was named in her honor, ensuring that her name and work would be remembered in the annals of science forever. In June 1941, during the chaos of World War II, a violent anti-Jewish pogrom known as the Farhud erupted in Baghdad, Iraq. Fueled by Nazi propaganda and growing anti-Semitic sentiment, Iraqi men, some armed with knives and other weapons, took to the streets, targeting the city's Jewish population. Over 2 days of terror, June 1 to 2, 1941, at least 180 Jews were murdered, more than 1,000 were wounded, and Jewish homes and businesses were looted and destroyed. Women were assaulted, children were killed, and entire families were left devastated. The Farhud marked a turning point for Iraq's Jewish community, which had thrived in Mesopotamia for over 2,500 years. In the following years, widespread persecution forced the vast majority of Iraqi Jews to flee, culminating in Operation Ezra and Nehemiah, 1950 to 1952, when nearly 120,000 Iraqi Jews were airlifted to Israel. Though often overshadowed by the events of World War II, the Farhud remains a dark chapter in Middle Eastern history, illustrating the fragile existence of Jewish communities in the region during the 20th century. The Kaifeng Jews are a small but historically significant Jewish community in China, believed to have settled there between the 7th and 10th centuries during the Tang or Song dynasties. Their ancestors were likely Persian or Middle Eastern traders who traveled along the Silk Road, bringing their traditions to the ancient Chinese capital of Kaifeng. For centuries, the Kaifeng Jews integrated into Chinese society, adopting local customs while preserving elements of Jewish faith and culture. They built a synagogue in 1163, studied the Torah, and followed Jewish practices, though over time, intermarriage and assimilation caused many traditions to fade. By the 19th and 20th centuries, the community had nearly disappeared, with only a handful of descendants retaining knowledge of their Jewish heritage. Western scholars and missionaries took an interest in the Kaifeng Jews, and rare photos, like this one from the early 1900s, capture the last generations practicing their faith. Today, while there is no formal Jewish community in Kaifeng, some descendants are rediscovering their roots, and efforts are being made to revive their lost traditions. On June 26, 1919, thousands of Jewish protesters took to the streets of Whitechapel, East London, in a march against the mass killing of Jews in Poland following World War I. The protest was sparked by reports of anti-Jewish pogroms, particularly in cities like Pinsk, Lviv, and Kielce, where Jewish communities suffered brutal violence amid post-war political turmoil. Whitechapel, home to a large Jewish immigrant population, became a center of activism against global antisemitism. The march was attended by a mix of Jewish workers, political leaders, and community figures, all demanding international intervention to stop the atrocities. Signs and banners called for justice, highlighting the plight of Polish Jews caught in the chaos of the Polish-Soviet War and rising nationalist tensions. This demonstration was part of a broader movement among British Jews to raise awareness and pressure the government to take action. The event reflected both the solidarity of London's Jewish community and the increasing political engagement of Jewish immigrants in British society. In this historic moment from 1927, Chiang Kai-shek, the leader of the Nationalist Army, Kuomintang, KMT, is seen adjusting his glove as he prepares to resume the Northern Expedition, a military campaign aimed at unifying China under the nationalist government by defeating warlords controlling various regions. The Northern Expedition, launched in 1926, was temporarily halted due to internal conflicts within the KMT, particularly between the nationalist and communist factions. By 1927, Chiang had consolidated his power and pushed forward, capturing key cities like Nanjing and Shanghai. However, this period also saw the violent split between the KMT and the Chinese Communist Party, CCP, leading to the infamous Shanghai Massacre and the start of the Chinese Civil War. This image captures Chiang at a pivotal moment in Chinese history, as he took steps to establish Nanjing as the new nationalist capital while setting the stage for decades of political turmoil between the KMT and the CCP. This historic image, taken in 1847 at Boston's Massachusetts General Hospital, is believed to be the first photograph of a live medical operation ever captured. The central figure, Dr. John Collins Warren, stands with his hands on the thigh of the patient, while Dr. Solomon Davis Townsend stands behind him, overseeing the procedure. The operation took place in the hospital's Ether Dome, a surgical amphitheater where early demonstrations of ether anesthesia revolutionized medicine. Just a year earlier, in 1846, this same location had witnessed the first public demonstration of ether anesthesia by dentist William T. G. Morton, marking a turning point in surgical history by allowing patients to undergo procedures without excruciating pain. This image represents a milestone in both medical and photographic history, capturing the dawn of modern surgery at a time when anesthesia and antiseptic practices were still in their infancy.